Even when you make plays like this for Colorado, it's still tough following Two's footsteps. And we're finding that out this week. Yeah, Kaidon Salter made some plays, but when Shedeur Sanders left the blueprint like the way that he left, it's going to be hard to fill them shoes. Let's talk about it. Say no more. Don't forget to like, comment, and subscribe, and click that notification bell for all your weekly reminders. Let's get straight into it. It's been one hell of a week for Kaidon Salter. Opening up the season for the last two seasons, we've always opened up the season with a W. TCU, last year North Dakota State. But even with Kaidon Salter's performance at quarterback, it still wasn't enough for the season opener for the CU Buffalo fans to beat Georgia Tech. Now, he made some plays, but I got to give something to the young man, give credit because there's tough shoes that he's following in, with Shedeur Sanders and the mark that he left on the CU fans and the Boulder fans. And we're entering into a new era. We all knew this coming into the season. What was Coach Prime Deion Sanders going to do? Without Shedeur Sanders, Travis Hunter, what was the offense going to look like? What kind of plays was Pat Shurmur going to call? And we see when you have a dual threat quarterback, you could just tell that Pat Shurmur is trying to play call to, Kaidon Salter's strength, and that's a game plan we're all going to have to get used to, knowing now that Colorado is a wide receiver university. So if we look at the past two seasons, it's been four wide split out, even the running back. And Shedeur Sanders just went out there and did his thing. But now you have a dual threat quarterback in Kaidon Salter. He's not really a volume thrower, or yet we haven't seen that yet. Maybe they haven't unleashed him yet. Maybe they kept him conservative. They did the play calling. They weren't trying to show too much with Kaidon Salter. He made some big plays like this, rolling out of the pocket, being able to throw on the run. But I feel like as CU Buffs fans and Colorado fans, we're used to the four-wide quarterback controlling the narrative and him also making the big plays when necessary. Now, don't get me wrong. I do believe that they will unleash the wide receiving core with the Delaware game approaching. I think this will be a good field game for them to test out the offense with Omarion Miller and company. But getting back to my point, Shedeur Sanders left tough shoes to fill for any quarterback stepping in for the Colorado Buffaloes. The Johnny Unitas Award winning, should have been a first-round draft pick, literally built this program. The next quarterback stepping up, we have to understand, for Kaidon Salter, or if it's going to be Juju Lewis moving forward, you have to understand the brash and the leadership that it takes to be the quarterback for the Colorado Buffaloes and the quarterback for Deion Sanders. Shedeur Sanders understood what the standard was for somebody like Deion Sanders with, being made for the moments, making the plays when they're needed. Deion Sanders is the type of coach that even in his quarterback, he looks for unshakable, unbreakable, somebody who's going to make the play when necessary. And I do see Kaidon Salter taking on that leadership role, bringing the troops together, rallying his receiving core, but it's not going to be an easy job. And for him transferring from Liberty over to the Big 12, there's a difference in play too as well. You know what I mean? Like the Big 12 is a powerhouse conference. If you look at Colorado's schedule, we got Arizona State, BYU, Kansas State. Utah. This ain't no walk in the park over here in the Big 12. And a lot of these transfers have to understand that they're transferring from lower conference schools over to the Big 12. And now, you get a taste of a Georgia Tech first game. You understand what Shedeur Sanders is actually doing for this program. Even with a shaky O-line, his O-line is nothing like the one that we have this year. So for me, I'm sorry, but there's no excuses for what Shedeur was able to do with the way less O-line. Kaidon Salter, Juju Lewis, whoever's going to be, you're just going to have to step in there and be the tough quarterback that Shedeur was. Because the plays that he was able to make, regardless of what Pat Shurmur is calling, Sheduer, when it was time to make plays, he made plays. Now, don't get me wrong. Was he perfect? No. No quarterback is perfect as far as, no athlete is perfect going throughout the season. But Boulder, Colorado, this program is built on two, and what he was able to do and the culture and the swag and everything that he brought to that university. Whoever's going to be at that quarterback position, you have a high standard to uphold, and that's what two did. Legendary. You got to step in there and be legendary, bro. And if you're not, then you got to let the next person step up and make those big plays. That's just what it is. I think Kaidon Salter had a good game, as far as like playing into whatever he had to, for the first game, still getting acclimated with everything. But when you're talking about Shedeur Sanders and the impact that he left on Boulder, Colorado, and playing for Coach Prime Deion Sanders, even passing the keys over to Juju Lewis, for Kaidon Salter coming over for Liberty, you got to understand what legendary mode is, what Brady mode is. That last drive, you got to go Brady mode. We're used to Sheduer going Brady mode on that last drive. You got over a minute left. We've seen it a couple times. We've seen it against Colorado State. We've seen it against UCF. We've seen it multiple times where Sheduer drove the team down the field and secured the victory. And we got to do better as far as, being the quarterback for the CU Buffaloes and living up to this legendary status. This is what you guys signed up for. You wanted the glitz, you wanted the glamour, you wanted that Colorado coverage, you wanted that culture, you wanted the spotlight. You got it. So now you got to step in there and make the plays when it's time to make the plays. There's no excuses no more because of the standard that was left by Sheduer. And I understand those aren't easy shoes to fill. But at the same time, this is what Coach Prime, and this is what we look into. This is the third season. Yes, the first game, but the schedule don't get easier. I'm sorry, bro. Look ahead to the schedule. BYU, Arizona State, Utah. It's not finna get easier, so we got to figure this out now. Don't get me wrong. The defense wasn't out there doing their best job, allowing over 300 and something yards rushing to a quarterback that we knew what Haynes King was going to do. Come on, Sean Livingston. Come on, defense. We got to do better. But us only putting up 20 points when the defense gave us 3 turnovers in the first quarter, there's no excuses for that. Even for you, Kaidon Salter, and at a time, you got to know when to run that ball, design runs like Haynes King was doing, and you got to learn how to, make some easier throws. Now, your highlight plays are great. I think you did a good job. I wouldn't grade you that you did a bad job, but I understand where you coming from, bro. These are tough shoes to fill, but you're in them now, bro. Colorado is the culture. Colorado is, where everybody's tuning into on Saturday. So, bro, if you're going to be the quarterback, you better legendary Shedeur Sanders that thing. We ain't trying to see or hear because we watched this dude play with no run game, no offensive line, and have to go out there and sling it 50 times. So there's a standard already set for you, bro. So I have all the faith in the world that you can do that. But yeah, welcome to CU football. Welcome to Colorado football. Like, comment, and subscribe. Drop, what y'all think about Kaidon Salter moving forward. Say no more.